Good morning. Good morning to all who are attending this webinar.
Good
Welcome
morning,
you
sir.
all. I welcome you all to this first webinar IDRBT is starting out during this pandemic. Actually, we are thinking of these webinars because, as you understand, there is no way we will be able to meet in person for quite some time, and this is the best way that we can meet. Webinar is a way in which we keep ourselves abreast of the discussions that we can take today and thereafter. In fact, IDRBT has also understood the need for e-learning more. Now, IDRBT is doing many courses through e-learning modules, and there has been quite a good response from banks, and banks are taking the best advantage of this. The pandemic is a situation which we have not bargained it for. It is not that we thought that such a thing would come. It hit us suddenly, and actually, these sudden things make us explore new alternatives. Not that webinars were not known to us, they were known to us for quite some time. But we thought that webinars could be exploited much more during this period. And same is the case with e-learning modules also. I always think that difficult situations bring different solutions. And that's what happens in the entire banking industry also. The pandemic is a time when you have to look at business continuity more than what you would have thought in the normal circumstances. Actually, one interesting thought that comes to me, had this pandemic struck us about 25 to 30 years back, I don't know how we would have delivered these banking services without the technology as the core. No core banking solution fully in place, no networking as it is today, no mobile services. So today we are able to deliver all these things because the technology has become the core of the banking. That's a very good thing to happen. But one thing that doesn't happen is the technology alone can't run banking. Banking is still to be run by people. So during pandemics, whatever business continuity planning we have thought and we have been doing, thinking of technology alternatives, now we have to look at people's perspective as much as important as it is. I think that's where we are all looking today to look at the people's perspective of the total pandemic situation. So it's a webinar series that we are planning, that we will be doing many more as it comes. The first one theme is business continuity planning during pandemics in banks, which is semicolon people's perspective. I think that is what we are going to focus more today from among all of us. To deliver this kind of experiences as to what this people's perspective for BCP in banks during pandemics, we have with us Mr. HR Khan. It's not it's not it's not necessary for me to actually introduce him. He's a core central banker who has worked in Reserve Bank of India for more than 3.5 decades. And during his term as Deputy Governor at Reserve Bank of India, he has taken many of the functional areas of the Reserve Bank, which include two important things in which we might be interested today also, information technology and also payment systems. And one area which is very close to his heart, which we know all of us, is financial inclusion and taking banking closer to the banks, to the people. And this is the time when we look at it more. Are we able to take banking, continue the banking to reach the customers, to reach every nook and corner of the country under these circumstances? And what would be the people's perspective on that? Even today, though Mr. Khan has moved out of Reserve Bank of India, he is there at a very important positions as a director, etc., in many organizations relating to banking and payment systems. And he has been able to advise and bring many reforms in these areas through his association with those organizations. As far as IDRBT is concerned, he is very close to us. He was the chairman of the governing council of IDRBT and he was deputy governor at SBI. And that makes us very happy to have this webinar series which we are starting, the first one to be anchored by him. In fact, he will be the main expert speaker for this. To have him with us is a very, very happy experience for us. It's a wonderful thought for us. So I don't want to spend much time, but what I just want to tell is that today we are looking at BCP. We are looking more at,
Video connecting to video, but video is not coming.
when we look at BCP, we are looking more at the people's perspective rather than technology, because the technology perspective BCP is well understood by us and we have been looking at that. So the people's perspective in BCP, especially during pandemics, is what Mr. Khan would be sharing his thoughts on. I hand over it to Mr. Khan to share his thoughts relating this particular topic. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Dr. Ram Sastry. Good morning to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So let me just put that morning. Let me put the presentation. Is the presentation visible?
Hello.
Is the presentation visible?
Not yet.
Not yet, sir. Not yet.
Video has been disabled in this meeting. Video disabled in this meeting.
You can switch on your video also.
Video has been disabled. Message coming. Video is disabled for this meeting.
Sir, can we request you now? Message. Hello, sir. You are visible. What I will do is I will load the slide deck from my side, and we will continue with that.
Okay.
I'm there.
So in the meantime, let me once again thank Dr. Ram Sastry. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I'm very happy to be associated with this very topical and relevant initiative of IDRBT, with which I had some pleasant memories. Is the presentation now visible to everyone?
Sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Good. Let me start with some caveats. Dr. Ram Sastry says that you are hearing from an expert. I am no expert in this area. When we talked about technology and people, and even though I supposed to know a bit of technology, I thought I know little more about people than technology. I took up the challenge. Now I realize I did a mistake, because the audience I have got, I think the number is quite large, and almost who's of the Indian banking I can see. Many old friends and colleagues and many seasoned bankers, and including my former mentors and bosses are all around. So I have a sense of fear and trepidation. But when somebody had sent me a WhatsApp message a day before, he says fear is everything and run, or the fear could be face everything and rise. I think I have no option than to go for the second option. So let me quickly run through the presentation, what I could gather in the last few days, and we will, that normally at the end of the presentation there are question answers, but deliberately we have made it, instead of Q&A, we have made it C&S, comments and suggestion. I don't know how much this format will allow, but we still will try, because the whole idea is not I am giving GAN and you are receiving GAN. In fact, I would be too happy to receive GAN from all of you, all people who are in the field and practicing. You are at the ground zero, most of you. And the whole idea is that being a learning institution, whether at the end of it we have few takeaways on which we can work further. That is why after the comments and suggestions, we will have some 5, 6, 7 key takeaways. With that, we will conclude this webinar. So let me first start with this COVID-19 pandemics. And you will find it is not BCP, it is BCCP. I'll tell you what is BCCP. So all of us know this is almost like a turning point in history, because coronavirus has been there for a long time, but this is called novel coronavirus. So that is its novelty. And it is turning point because sometime back, if you remember, Prime Minister Modi had spoken to Macron, French president. He said turning point history. He was talking in the context of human-centric globalization. And we have many people who have talked about this as a turning point in history. And because in many ways it is going to change the way societies will be behaving after this, how the economy is responding to this thing, and the whole cultural change which will happen in individual behavior. Unprecedented impact. In fact, if many of you know, this is in fact the things which we are seeing now were part of science fiction. Science fiction, and those fictions have come reality. And if you see, there is a movie called Contagion. Some of you must have seen. That movie is by Steven Soderbergh, and where they talked about how somebody who was gone to Macau got infected by the chef in the restaurant, and how that lady comes to USA and how it spreads. And there they have talked about droplets and fomite, which we are now talking. So now we are faced with that reality. But is it unprecedented in a sense? People draw a comparison with Spanish flu of 2018 to COVID 2019. But there are many ways that Ram Shastri, this is really unprecedented. And if you see the impact on economy and the disruption it is going to cause, I think the data I don't have to tell. One simple data, for example, IMF has given a lot of data in terms of how the global growth is going to go down sharply, 8 to 10% in many countries. And India, we had got an estimate of 1.9% by IMF. Now people are talking about zero, or maybe first time recession after the second oil shock of 1969-70, possibly. And some visible data is we have PMI manufacturing of April, which sunk to 27% from 51.8%, and services PMI 5.4 compared to 49.3 in the previous month. And you have seen the latest IAP data for March, minus 16.7. It is something which could have been predicted, or it is totally unpredictable. I think there are people like Nassim Taleb who have said that it was predictable. It was not a black swan, it was a white swan, but people have not really prepared, not really responded and reacted properly. And in fact, those of you who would have seen the Bill Gates TED talk, the next outbreak, we are not ready. This was in 2015, but be that as it is, it has really struck us in our face. The question is how long it is going to last. The definitive answer is indefinitely. One should say we don't know. And now WHO says that we have to live with virus for many years to come. So if that is the case, and people are telling, for example, in Spanish flu, after the lockdown was over, people started celebrating. We had second peak, then we have third peak. In fact, second peak mortality was much more than the earlier peaks. So I think we are into uncharted area, and this prolonged uncertainty and prolonged disruption and dislocations are going to continue. So we need robust BCCP. There is no doubt about it. So why I call it BCCP, not just BCP, because we will no, because it can't be business as usual. Business has to change, so there has to be continued change. We'll talk about what are those changes right now and what are the changes going forward. Let's move to the next one. So this is when we talk about this BCCP that Dr. Ram Shastri also mentioned. Let me first start with what is the significance of BFSI sector. In current context, banking is an essential service, more so in India, which is a bank-dominated system. The whole payment system hinges on banking. The entire activity relating to reviving and restoration of economy depends on the banking and BFSI sector. So I don't have to elaborate before you, and more so also the role of public sector bank, who still now even now have 2/3 of the banking business. So when you talk about BCCP, it has many layers. whether it has a strategy layer, it has an organizational setup layer, it has a business and IT process layer, data and applications asset layer, of course, technology infrastructure, hardware, software, security solutions, which focus on reliability, redundancy, and fallout. They are all layers, but important layer is also human layer. When you talk about very briefly about IT and telecom infrastructure, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about very briefly about IT and telecom infrastructure, very important. We need a resilient and robust IT and telecom infrastructure. That goes without saying, because we now understand, as Dr. Ram Sastry said, had it happened 50 years ago, we would not know how we would have managed. So there is this criticality of network and VPN servers, for example, we realize. But what also we need to keep in focus, as we started talking about the people part in this whole BCCP arrangement. Very simple reason, people are getting affected by virus, not the computer system. So it is people who are not available, not the IT infrastructure. So that is why we need to look at the people part and whether and how much from where they will work, how they will work outside the usual confines of an office, how technology and people will have to move in tandem. So that's why we call it technology and people partnership, how they will evolve. So this is the significance of what we call Tech PO approach. Let us move to the next one. So how are you managing with this current crisis? In fact, in many organizations, it is we are surviving in a state of chaos. We have, if you see, there are playbooks available, BCP playbooks available, but no one had anticipated this. You know, people, when those who have talked about, again, I mentioned about Nassim Taleb was talked about Black Swan, and now he calls it is actually White Swan. We should have planned for it. Some people had planned, but nobody had thought of this dimension and intensity of this particular pandemic. So there has been some planned response and quite a lot unplanned response. So many people have their pandemic preparedness framework. They have reviewed it, identified gaps, and they are keeping looking at the situation, how is it evolves. It is like trying to feel and walk, feeling the people and walking. But and we are working as we develop the model. It's learning by doing. But quite often it is a bit of a messy affair the way we are responding, because here there are issues relating to people and organizational risks. There are system risks involved, process risks, of course, technology and telecom risk, and whole issue of supply chain and outsourcing risk will be there. So the main focus is how do you focus on prevention and protection. All of us now, how the entire, wherever people come to work in office, what sort of social distancing, hygiene, sanitation, and all. I think everybody is now more or less expert in this area, how to maintain hygiene and sanitation in the office area and social distancing, a whole host of issues which goes along with working in the current context. And as we restore and recover the operations, and we in fact has a very evolving an interim operating model. As I showed, it's a messy model, but we are trying to run it and to some reasonable degree of efficiency. But post lockdown, I think it is going to be a bigger challenge. In the lockdown goes a bigger challenge. Don't expect that everyone will rush on one fine Monday, everybody will rush to work. I think that is not, we should not be looking at. We have to plan how many people will come, what should be the distancing maintained in office, what could be the etiquette for holding meetings, what could be the work practices, the whole host of issues, and whole idea of I think for months, maybe for years, you have to continue to wear masks in our office setup or whenever we go outside. And now people have started talking about apps, contact tracing act and health hygiene app. We have Arogya Setu app. Individual organizations also have their own apps. For example, Hero motorcycle has a Hero Hope. Maruti has Maruti Mitra. Like that, they have got apps. There are issues, but these are some of the ways post lockdown we have to also plan. Some people say that you should do 4/10, somebody says 7/14, 4 days you come, 10 days you work from home. Don't same group only should work, groups should not intermingle among themselves. So there are different ways when we go over this interim arrangement and go for a more sustainable opening of our workplaces. The other point is in terms of different strategy for different segments. So there are different layers. For example, in a bank-like organization, we have a head office, controlling office, and branches. Then, if you see the people part hierarchy, on the top we have board and CXO, chief executive. We have field level staff, front office staff, back office staff. We have business correspondent. We have vendor staffs, and very critical, we have call centers. I'll come to that. So there are a host of different segments of people who should be looking at when we want to survive and wait through this crisis phase. So how do we meet these challenges next? So now the buzzword is WFH, and WFH is working from office, and WFH is working from home. The whole point is many organizations have started working from home, but not many banks, not many particularly public sector banks. There were issues. For example, we have not equipped people with necessary equipment. Everyone doesn't have a laptop, network connectivity, security issue, confidentiality issue. Many people, place like Bombay, have a small house you have to share with family, so privacy issue. So there are a host of issues. Then the most important why work from home is a challenge is that we have not created a common should be able to work. Not all, at least many organizations. So we have not really developed those video audio connections, those for example, we have something called Microsoft SharePoint, common data, whether you have used the cloud. So that sort of preparatory arrangement, IT support, many organizations don't have. So but now, as I said, we are trying our best, and these learnings should be used as we go forward. And we have not really done an role by role analysis of how many work, which items of work can be done in office, which items of work can be done from home. For example, there are other aspects. So there are many women employees, and when they work from home, they also work for home. So how do we balance work from home and work for home? So I think these are all issues. They're all burning issues. We are trying to negotiate with those things. And when people work from home, there are well-being issues very critical. It is professional, physical, and psychological. When you talk about professional, people have to maintain some routine. It should not be a very laissez-faire sort of thing. And how do you create sort of a creative workspace with your limited home environment? And how do you upscale? For example, we have been last 2 days we are doing some mock trials to do this video conference. To some extent, we have been successful, but not fully. And upscale your other skills to work from home. And in terms of physical, we are all those who are huddled in the house in terms of their health, their fitness, and how do you take care? Many organizations, for example, have now regular yoga or meditation coaching classes to people. And psychological also is very important. A lot of burnouts will happen, and there will be mood swings. So that's why we are talking about pulse check or sensitivity check, how people are behaving. And As I mentioned, we talked about yoga and meditation. So these are ways we have to look when we talk about work from home, so that this work from home becomes work from home happily. So people can work from home happily. That is why WFHH. Then very critical, of course, is employee engagement. I think we lot of communication has to be done. It has to be both way, and you have to lend a listening ear to your employees, and not only employees, other staff, whether it is a BC staff or a vendor staff, also needs to be engaged. And of course, when we are stressful, it has to be business with fun. So without that, I think people will get stressed up too much. So if you go to the next one, so what is this is bit important slide in the sense what is going to happen going forward. So our work process has started undergoing change even before pandemic came. We had digital disruptions and people were working. Some people were working from home in some organizations. We have what is known as the gig economy. We have people who are part-time, not permanent, flexible employees. So we had, in fact, a lot of things which has been outsourced. So this is what was happening. But now, during COVID and post-COVID, these things will get upscaled very, very rapidly. So we have to look at how the on-site work will be organized between flexible worker, contract workers, how the virtual workers, gig workers will work, and how we will manage this network of teams and how it will be the hybrid structure. The structure currently is a very linear hierarchical structure. I think that structure going forward will not work. We will have a structure where it is a network of teams or a hybrid sort of a thing, which perhaps more applicable to public sector banks in the current stage of their development. And we will have what is known as liquid working and solid working. Liquid working is because you will have a lot of absenteeism in different segments. So you need people who have multiple skills. Multi-skilling is something that's very easily to us, so we can build on that. We have people, for example, the fellow who is doing currency handling can do small appraisal, he can do recovery, so he can do some customer-facing inquiries. So there are certain areas where multi-skilling can be done, so they can be liquid working, and there are solid working, those who are in the approval hierarchy. So so we will have a combination of that, and we have to focus on how the manpower is distributed among the specialists, core staff, flexible staff, and critical staff. For example, CTO or internal auditor, digital cell, and core staff, of course, is people who are in branch operations. Specialists, we know, credit appraisals, economists, lawyers. So how do you manage in the entire thing? So how the HR will look like is we will have a lot of reorientation and setting up in the HR. So HR model, transformation model will involve not pure HR doing payroll processing, recruitment, PMS in the traditional sense, but we will have people who will have data analytics, which will have performance consultants, we have employee experience consultant, we'll need digital coaches because the digital and physical have to go together. We'll have the robotics capability manager, and we'll need behavioral scientists in the HR setup. So this is how the new HR setup will be. We have to prepare for that and how as we go forward. Very briefly, I will not touch much on this compensation and benefit. I think you have to really look both our short-term and long-term benefits. How do we handle this? And One area where we have to focus in terms of benefit is health benefit. I think health insurance will be assuming very critical importance. In fact, many organizations are ensuring the people who are coming to office to work, they should be given certain extra because they are facing hardship and risk, some extra benefit to them, some nutritious food, and I think you have to look at that as it will depend on how the business is growing also. So we have to relook at this entire spectrum of compensation. The other critical part is linked to the new HR is the fourth bullet. I'll come to the third little later. The performance and productivity management, because used to people sitting in different roles and work is given in a linear manner, hierarchical manner. We evaluate, we have KRIs, KPIs set. But the whole distributed workforce, a network-based workforce, and people working at their own space in their own way from home. How do we do the performance evaluation and productivity management? I think we will now have to focus more and more on outcome-based and milestone-based. Use large number of productivity measurement tools. There are something called Time Doctor. Then we have to see how people utilize calendar. Calendar utilization is something. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yes, sir.
Tools like Time Doctor and calendar utilization. Then we need to have real-time dashboards to see the measurable KRAs. And for example, you can pull a lot of data from the CVS to do this real-time database and real-time measurement of performance of the individual. For example, a relationship manager in a bank, you can pull out from CVS how much he has generated revenue per customer, how much business he has done in asset side or liability side, what is the level of customer satisfaction, customer complaint, how much digital footprints he has been able to create, what is the compliance position, and how responsive he is to online learning. So these are all can be captured in a dashboard. So you can do online basis performance evaluation, productivity evaluation. And based on that, you can create reward structure, maybe linked to your ESOP in some cases. And also you can do a lot of activities by way of digital assessment away from face-to-face, because face-to-face assessment is going to be a challenge going forward. So we develop those KRAs and KPIs which are amenable to digital assessment. What is this learning and reskilling we are talking about? I think as I was mentioning, we had seen digital disruptions, massive changes in the operating business model before this COVID thing happened. This has only accelerated that. So we need to upscale these learning and reskilling requirements. So this reskilling will need in areas where digital skill, of course. Then we need higher cognitive and skills, social and emotional skill, very necessary for customer engagement, which I'll come to little later. And adaptability and resilience is something which I will do. And as we mentioned, is cross training, because we need a lot of people who have multiple skill sets, so they can develop for somebody who is not able to come and work. So that is how we do the cross training. And the whole idea of content and content delivery, the medium and methods. This webinar is one. I think IDRBT, and there are many other vendors who are in a big way active in this e-learning module. I think e-learning is going to be the key thing. So it is like we have to monitor online. Everyone is going through this e-learning module, how much he is assimilated. At the end of it, some online tests. So this e-learning module has to be internalized, and these new skills have to be internalized. The other thing is that let us not think that we are facing drastically cut down the training budget, because training and development is something, including the digital way of training. I think we should not lose focus, because afterwards we have to regret. So finally, how do you create cultural readiness for this transformation of working, multiple way of working, as we discussed, landscape has changed work, and how do you create that cultural readiness? How do you create the brand building? How do you do the value alignment with the organization's top and the rank and file of the organization? I think this is something you have to regularly interact, as you mentioned. I'll mention about this when we talk about leadership a little later, in terms of communication, in terms of some brand building. For example, and just when I was thinking last night, mask is going to be near permanent feature, people working in office. So each organization should create a mask, give it to your SSGs, give it to some NGOs, which has a logo of your organizations. So you wear it, nice, good quality mask, and give it to your customers, give it to your family and friends. So that's one easy way of brand building, cultural alignment with the organization. So I think we have to prepare people for the culture, and their communication is very, very important. Let us move to the biggest chunk of people aspect. The biggest next one is about the biggest chunk of people we are focusing on. They are, of course, the customers. So this disruptions and dislocation has brought into sharp focus the need to provide a seamless service with safety to many millennials. They are already on mobile banking or internet banking, but there are many elderly people or homemakers, bottom of the pyramid customers. They believed in physical branch banking, non-digital means, of course, payment system, many way, Google Pay or Bing Pay, but still there are people have necessity of moving to the branch. So I think how do we take care of these customers? We have to look at multi-channel approach and physical approach. Physical approach is suppose digital and physical. So physical not necessarily at the branch level. Physical is what you do at the BC level. For example, agent level, many people can be diverted to your BC's thing. In fact, I know there are some banks, they started moving around in the vans during lockdown, even in containment zones, with a van going with a laptop and a BC sitting with a laptop and cash. So they were announcing in microphone. So this is combination of people and technology. They're announcing, please come and take cash. XYZ bank is at your doorstep. So you go to that BC who's sitting with laptop and cash, and you do transaction. The other thing is the whole fear of handling cash, of getting infection and contamination, and see the problem of visiting a branch, physical social distancing and visiting transport. So I think time to upscale digital footprints, and I think focus on do it at home. I always give an example. People 60, 70, 80, they are so comfortable in using WhatsApp. They have adapted so well, but not many have adapted to digital banking using a smartphone. So what you do it, so you start engaging with customers and teach them digitally how do they work it. In fact, Chinese bank host in and around Wuhan have started this. You give a missed call, this transaction can happen. You are video counseling, you do how do they handle their digital banking staying at home. So I think this is the time to upscale digital banking offers. And the other is customer connect, because physical proximity will not be there. The whole approach of digital selling, we have to look at closely. How do we make ourselves ready for digital offering? And very important is caring and sharing all your schemes, what all. And caring is, as you know, there are many small enterprises, they are facing difficulties. So how do we talk to them and give them the manner which a lot of schemes have been now announced. So I think this is also this part is caring and sharing. How do you reach out to them, listen to them, and try to offer them some solutions? So there are a lot of advisory issues will also come. I think we have to look at that. If we have to look at the large chunk of the people. And of course, very critical next is the leadership, which it's at the top. And when you talk about leadership, I would say it is more of the same. When you say more of the same, I think leaders, I think leadership is something on which thousands of PhDs would have written, just like poverty is a theme on which thousands of PhDs have written. So, but critical elements of leadership, which is old school but still holds good, is compassion, connectedness, and communication. So this becomes very critical in the current context. When you say about compassion, we talked about physical, psychological well-being of the staff. So this compassion also should mean a bottom of your hierarchy staff. Those of you who have seen Munna MBBS, he is giving a jhappi to the sweeper in the hospital. I think that sweeper in the hospital or sweeper in a bank and the people who work on Sundays, people who work in call centers in a congested way, I think they also need some compassionate consideration. Support whatever manner we can provide. And connectedness and communication is very, very critical. The other thing is there are new frontiers which leaders have to come face to face with. As you mentioned about new ways of working, new business model, which you talk a little later, and the new ways of working. And they have to have a lot of coordination and convergence with many institutions outside your own organization, whether it is health authorities, state authorities, medical fraternity, people who are in facilities management is something which is relegated to ex-service caretaker. I think that is also now top of the mind of leader. How do you manage, how people sit, how they maintain sanitation, how they maintain distancing. So these are new areas on which the leaders have to look at. And very critical in the current context and going forward from the BCCP point of view is they should not consider their own organization as only one subsidiary. It's a joint venture. So I think the whole idea of joint MD, joint CEO, and creating a leadership pipeline, not only for the CEO, but of the key management personnel is very, very critical, because we need human backup for every key role. And very important, flowing from what, as I mentioned. Let me also just very quickly add on the point of compassion, because we are also moving in a big way to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so human interactions will come down. But as you know, Alan Turing, who is first half of last century, a British mathematician who was in a sense founder of computer science, has said as we go forward, the information system, the computer science should develop in a manner which is kind, beautiful and friendly, and is able to distinguish between right and wrong. And in fact, there is a concept called compassionate artificial intelligence. So when you build artificial intelligence systems, you have to bring this compassion value quotient into those artificial intelligence building. In fact, there is a piece by Sudhir Kulkarni on Mahatma Gandhi and artificial intelligence. You can do the Google search and see that. So this is important when we build state-of-the-art modern technology, bring compassion. The final point, as I mentioned, humility and not hubris. I think we there are many organizations, particularly some organizations, the leader think he knows everything and he is the best, and but I think that is something this has disproved how we have not discounted those fat tails. So that humility, that is very important, and they should not get carried away by hubris. As Albert Einstein said, a true genius admits that he or she knows nothing. In fact, Emerson has said, a great man is always willing to be little. So I think that humility part is very important. Let me finally come to the last slide very quickly, which is what is relates to most of us and is board's from the board's perspective, because from the people dimension, board has also important role. Board sits at the top of that people hierarchy in an organization. So you have to look at our playbook, how it has evolved, how efficient it is. Take from the learnings what you have done. I think you have to constantly evaluate and see whether we are really building a resilient and robust system with giving the changes which is happening. One and the other critical point is, as I mentioned, is succession planning at the top. I think board often gets very super performer, high profile chief executives sometimes bring some sense of awe around them, or also board is not very keen to plan or ask for a succession planning. I think time has changed, so we need to have a very clear succession planning. Who is going to be the backup in case of something happens, not only for the CEO but also all the key personnel. And I think we should have a closed envelope sort of thing for all that. And people, as I mentioned, if there is a joint leadership, when the CEO talks to the board, I think the potential joint CEO is around with him. Similarly, a key management personnel talks with the board, the second man likely is around with him. The other thing is the right now immediate context is survival and sustainability. I think board should not too much focus on the revenue and growth, but focus on how do we survive and sustain our business, not so much on the numbers, but on the survival. And as we move along, things get slightly normalized. So we have to look at how we revive and reinvent in the new business environment. How do we take the learning of the new workforce, work landscape, new business, which are the business which are going to go down, which are the businesses that are going to come up. So we have to look at. So one area where we have to look at is, because business is going to come under a lot of pressure in terms of need. So how do you do cost cutting? So cost cutting would have, because you will have productivity gain. Some people, so for example, you have a lot of space is saved. You can use it for other purposes. You can save electricity. You can save other expenses, and you have to do a lot of manpower planning to see how we can cut down the layers. For example, from CBS, you can pull up a lot of data to see whether in a particular branch we need so many people, one cashier to give cash, another person to do the counter signature, and how much virtual work opportunities are there we can cut down, and how many people we can use on outsource basis. I know these are challenges for public sector bank, and also whether these regional office, zonal office structures are necessary. Flat sort of organization. And also very, very important is upgrading our skills and knowledge. I think this is the right time for do that. And somebody suggested me, in some of us, in fact, I've done that MCA course. I think this may be time to do that MCA course when we are sitting, which is mandatory for directors. So, but the point is, we need to upgrade our skill and knowledge ourselves as we expect from others. And very critical role for the board is to see that our social footprints. This COVID has brought out how we are now linked to the society. So not only corporate social responsibility, the wider concept of ESG, environment and governance models. So you know how much we can help the government in creating an environment to fight this COVID and what gains we can build on for environment. For example, people from Hoshiarpur are able to see Himalayas. So if you do lot of work sitting from home, not traveling, I think that also will give some environmental protection footprint. So we need to have a clear vision in terms of ESG, what we are going to do to contribute to society, and in terms of contributions. For example, now you must have seen in WhatsApp, many people have said, let there be Bharat Ratna to Mr. Tata, because the way he has contributed. Many people say we will buy Tata's product. That's the way of paying back what Tatas are doing. I think this is something we should also keep in mind. And the last point for the board in the current context is we are all preoccupied with COVID-19 crisis. But by no means be oblivious of other risks and other challenges. We should not be singularly focused on this. This is very critical. We need to focus. There are many banks, large number of banks were already facing problem before the COVID came, whether in terms of asset quality, in terms of business going down, and digital disruptions, cyber security risk. Think for a moment, you have COVID virus and a cyber attack virus come together. What is going to happen? So I think there are other risks and huge reputation risks. So there are other risks, challenges. So when we are focused on COVID-19 challenges, risk, I think we should be aware of other challenges and other crises. I think let me stop here. Let me end with this bit of a sense of optimism, which is a quote, because we are all in a very miserable condition. So this is a quote from Les Miserables. So this is what Victor Hugo said: even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. I hope this darkest night will end and we will see better times and we will see better prepared to face such pandemics in future. I think these pandemics are going to be recurrent and we are better prepared to handle them going forward. So let me stop here. So very quickly we'll take some comments and suggestions. Abhishek, you organize whatever you want to do.
Yes,
So
sir.
again, Dr. Ram Sastry.
Yeah, I'll take it just one sec. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Khan, for the running us through the people's perspective of these pandemics. I'm just going through this. One thing that has come is, can we share the presentation? Straight away, that presentation will be shared. Abhishek, you just take care of it and send it to all. That should not be a problem
Any
about.
kids, any sane person.
Please,
Sir, this is
tell your name and right.
This is Mahabaleshwar MS, MD and CEO of Karnataka Bank. It was very nice to hear Dr. HR Khan on HR issues. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and many of these issues really haunting the top management as well as the board. And of course, now all the boards are virtual meetings only. Sir, with this increased digital engagement and more virtual meetings, how to address the socializing and networking missed opportunities. Earlier, we were all having that opportunity that is now missed. So, do you have any comments on this, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can. You can tell.
No, human beings by nature, human beings are social beings. So we need socialization, we need interaction. So that is a big challenge. I only hope that this rigid social distancing will not last forever. But let us also accept that many years to come, at least for many months to come, we have to maintain social distancing. Even now, I see in our board meetings, when I see my colleagues joining from there, each one of us is talking, oh, they are not using mask. Now everyone has to be conscious about that. So how these droplets and fomites transmit. I think this new culture we have to accept. You know, many people must have seen in Southeast Asia, Japan, people go out, they just put mask. So if this is required for survival, we have to survive. Once we survive and things get normal, we'll bring a social interaction. But digitally also we can do social interaction. Please do some digital chat. Time in digital platform, in your Zoom or webinar or Microsoft Team. I think this Zoom there are issues, but I think that is being addressed. So you have a time around 5 o'clock or 4:30. Everyone takes a cup of tea or takes some pakoda and eat and talk to each other through the digital means. This is what we can do for the time being. And you have a digital morning meditation yoga session, you interact. So this is how I think you have to accept it as a new normal or next normal for many months to come. And even if you going forward, I think this may be a norm rather than an exception. But let us hope for the better times. We can meet and shake hands with each other, which we are desperately looking for. How do I shake hands? But I think Namaste is going to stay.
Yeah. Sir, I am Mrs. Krishnamurthy. Hello, I am Mrs. Krishnamurthy. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. Sir, this is in your presentation. It was a good presentation, and in your presentation, you did touch upon women employee, work from home, and work for home. I totally agree with you. When we are in office, we are totally focused in our work. When we are at home, we are totally focused in our housework. But it's a very tough challenge to balance both work from home and work for home, especially for those who have very small kids whom they cannot keep it in the creche. Also, daycare centers are not now available. So, with small kids around, demanding their attention, the focused attention for delivering the official responsibilities are going to become a big challenge. So, in these circumstances, they need a very compassionate leader who can understand their predicaments. And I would like to know, what as a board member, what role do we have to tell the bank where we are on the board to devise policies to this effect, sir? Flexi time, etc. for them.
Yeah, no, as I mentioned, this is work from home becomes very difficult for women because they work for home also. And not only that, for us also, because some of us also are doing work for home also. And a bit of it. So, because household help, our business, our model in Indian society, particularly middle class and upper middle class, we are so much dependent on our maid servants. So I think they are not there. So I think we have to learn the tricks. So far as the women employees concerned, even before this came, they had the home responsibility and the office responsibility. But this provides opportunity, in fact, for better balancing. You can have flexible timing, as you said, because you can break your time. You take 3 hours in between to cook your food and feed your children and feed your parents. So during that time, you log out. So you have multiple login and log out times. It can be counted how many hours you have put. And your efficiency will be judged by outcome and milestones, as I mentioned, rather than how many hours you are sitting at the desk. So I think there are ways that digital provides a much better way of balancing work from home and working for home, and working from home happily, as I mentioned, WFHH. So I think there are ways of doing it, and as I mentioned, as you also mentioned, both the
Thank you very much.
and the board has to be compassionate. Think of this reorientation.
Sir, I'm Asil Jain from Bank of Baroda. So, in this COVID time, to remain productive and efficient, because working from home, when we are a heterogeneous or type of a people, aged people also. First point. So, and so far we are more of attendance oriented to outcome oriented. So to change to a outcome oriented, what we should do?
As I mentioned, in our productivity measurement, there are ways. In fact, digital is the way of doing more efficient productivity measurement. There are productivity measurement tools, whether there is a, as I said, calendar preparation or a time doctor, and you should create your KRAs and KRAs in a manner which is amenable to digital assessment. And as I mentioned, multiple logins, multiple logouts, where we can do it. And there is something called pulse meter, reading the pulse and the mood of the person. You can use artificial intelligence to see that. So that will also show whether it's going to affect the person's productivity. It may mean some intrusion, but I think it has to be properly balanced with safeguards, so that we know how the mood swings happens when you are in a lockdown condition or working from home under different challenging conditions. So there are ways of managing productivity even if we're working from home. And as I mentioned, we have to create that infrastructure so that distributed working is possible. Many organizations have spent huge money on IT and computerization, but we have not really focused on this aspect of working from home. There are also legal challenges. For example, telecom, can you put your telecom equipment at home? If you do the homework, office work at home, whether they will come back and tell you charge commercial rate of interest, whether some of this expenditure you are doing for networking, for bandwidth, for office furniture, whether they will be deducted as a business expense. So there are fiscal and regulatory issues also need to be addressed. And as I mentioned, The whole database on which everyone can work with proper security and safety firewalls from a distributed workplace. I think these are all possibilities. I think now this crisis should not be wasted. As they say, no crisis should be wasted. This crisis has given us opportunity to seize that and work on those areas. How do we work in a distributed environment and a network work environment?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Khan, I'm Ajay Vyas from UCO Bank. You rightly mentioned an hybrid organization structure. I welcome your concept idea, but how do you suggest how bank should implement this? Looking to the rigid labor laws in India, how can we go for a hybrid organization structure? Probably that is the need of the hour right now. Looking to the way people are working and gig structure coming back in India right now. So we also should work out some very economical way to run the banks. So will you please highlight this point?
No, you are absolutely right. We have to move towards that, this hybrid structure. As I mentioned, there are regulatory issues. For example, there will be labor laws issues if people working from home. A person may be working for 16 hours in breaks. How do we compute? So those things needs to be addressed. I think these challenges have to be met. I think there is no escape from that. I think at industry level, whether IBA level, I think you can have a group which will work on this. You must be knowing NASCOM is working for the IT sector. What are the legal issues they are likely to face, and they are making a representation to the government. On the banking sector side, I think through IBA, I think we'll need to have a small committee with some experts working with the committee and working out what could be the model. You are not going to do it overnight tomorrow. Over the next 6, 8 months, 12 months, I think what are the legal, regulatory and fiscal issues we are going to face. I think we should now amenable, because digital is something which is everyone is interested, and I think this is, as I mentioned, this is going to be a near permanent thing. So this pandemic sort of thing. So I think we need to collate our requirements through industry association and go to the authorities to see that we take remedial steps without wasting time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one sec. I think the question answers will end now. You can keep sending your whatever suggestions you have got. What we will do, two things, if Mr. Khan agrees. One PowerPoint presentation will be shared with all the directors who have participated. Besides that, we'll prepare a summary of the takeaways based on the presentations that have come, and that also we will circulate among all bank directors. So that will help us in taking this. And I also want to tell that we will conduct some more webinars of this nature. Before we sign off with just telling the 4 points I just wanted to flag at the board directors level for this particular pandemics and the digital thing. One, I think every bank needs to have a digital plan. That is how much they can move as many activities as possible into the digital platform, and also see that several of the things which we are doing using cash and all those things, I think slowly we should move into digital payments. Probably this could be an opportunity for many banks that we will try to move towards digital. Not only payments, many other services which we are getting it done through your app that can be done through digital means. I think this should be one plan the board can take it into account. While doing it, we also need to plan about the structure of the organization. See, we have planned our organization structure, taking into account how the delivery points are, various things and all that. Probably a time has come, which some banks would have done already, but many banks can do. Of course, keeping in view certain constraints and restrictions. Probably this is time to open up those constraints also. IBA could be a facilitator, or when government also we can discuss and get certain things done. How to restructure your organization to see that many people are capable of working away from the office, not only when it is required in pandemic, even otherwise also. The productivity efficiency patterns can be studied, who should work, from where they should work, and all those points also can be thought. So along with the digital plan, we also need to have a plan for the HR structures. The third point is the BCP. We have been drafting BCPs thinking in mind that BCP is infrastructure related BCP, though we have some paras and certain things at BCP for people. So probably, as Mr. Khan has highlighted so many throughout these things, we need to relook at our BCP and start redrafting it to see that people are available where required and the services continue right there. Most important, which is a technology related, but which is very relevant today, is as you start working from home. Now we are thinking it's a temporary measure and we are doing it. It's a long-term thing. As we start working from home, security becomes the greatest concern. And this is where I think board should be equally concerned. How is the security continue to be maintained in the information security continue to be maintained in this environment where you are throwing open networks, you are making people work from a place which is not the usual place, and how these things are going to be taken. I think the IS policy itself needs to be redrafted and maybe rediscussed and all those things. I think these four are takeaways I can summarize saying that.
If I can just, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah.
You have very rightly captured those three important points. BCP and BCCP continue to change. What will be the change in terms of our structure, HR practices, HR organization, and move shift toward digital. Last slide, which I had some points I think you can take. Two critical points is, as you mentioned, relook at our entire crisis management plan and entire team. You mentioned about bringing that people part, but very critical, very critical. Since this is sort of I am no longer holding an official position, so I can tell, you know, all of you know, in public sector, the CEO is dominated by the shareholders and owner. And in private sector, the CEO dominates the owner and the shareholder directors. So these two extremes, I think we have to bring somewhere together. I think very critical is to have a succession planning. Succession planning written down and codified, and have some plan for CEO's backup, plan for the key management personnel's backup. If you don't have, we need to create with utmost urgency. Don't be carried away by the profile of the CEO, the profile of the key management personnel, because that hubris will cost us. So I think this is also very critical. As a board, we have to focus on this.
Thank you. We will put all these summarized, whatever are takeaways, and we'll circulate this also after showing it to you once so that we can add those points also. Let me thank all the directors.
1 minute, just 1 minute.
Yeah.
If any of the participants have very quick suggestion in terms of further adding any point, they can tell us very quickly, 1 or 2 points, if anything.
One suggestion, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. One suggestion: whenever you organize next webinar, kindly try to do on the subject of the security only.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, next time our topic is cyber security, which we will announce shortly, and that is going to be on security mainly.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I am Dr. Bharat Dankar from Bank of Baroda.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, one quick suggestion. I'm Jimmy here, ex-CHM Nabad, and I'm the board of CSB board now. That is, whether we can think of a mini ODI, Organized Development Initiative kind of thing, which Dr. Khan already knows as a director of NABARD, where such human resource intervention can be quite useful in actually preparing the business continuity and change plan in the current context.
Sir, Sunita Honda.
We couldn't hear you properly. Can you repeat?
So the audio is not clear, sir?
Yeah, now it's clear.
Not clear. Okay. Then I will send it.
Please send it on WhatsApp to.
Yeah. I will do that, sir. Okay. Thank you.
One more suggestion.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Sunita Honda from State Bank of India. Next time you are saying you will hold a webinar on cyber security. My request and suggestion is that along with that, kindly also cover what all security measures are required at the employee's end when he is working from home. There could be a case of shoulder surfing. There could be, somebody else writing the code or having a view of the code, some screen grabs or this thing, whatever measures can be taken. to ensure that the environment in which the employee is working, that is also secured, and there is no leakage of any information, there is no security lapse.
Thank you. We have noted that. We will see how to cover it. That's very important.
No, Khan, here.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say, the other thing this time, for instance, we faced was really, even the auditors had to work from home. And there the issue of sharing the very private information with the auditors, how best it can be done. And not just the auditors, like you were saying, there are so many outsourced employees. Most of the IT people are coming to the office, I guess, nowadays, they are forced to come. But going forward, how do we deal with this, the other categories also, other than your own employees?
Madam, actually, I forgot to mention because it was not, I was rushing through some of the slides. Even for this critical IT infrastructure or people coming to office on a regular basis, in wherever there are red zones, I think we have now almost sort of a playbook where people should be staying in the office or near office. They should not be commuting and traveling to their home for about 1 week or 10 days. Then they get a break for 10 to 14 days. For example, RBI has created a structure, the entire hotel has been taken in. Their offsite center and the data center people are working for weeks, and there is a change plan. I think you have to do that. Similar thing you have to enforce. Whenever we do our vendor contract, you have to enforce that in such situations, their manpower should be available near the data center and where the IT infrastructure is located. They can't go home and come, because going home is a risk for them, risk for the family, and going home and coming back is also a risk for the organization, for the people. Similarly, you have to relook at the call centers where a lot of people work together. I think that call center redistribution design also has to be done. The whole host of issues relating to this outsourced people.
No, it's a huge.
Rewrite the contract and see that they provide manpower close to where this infrastructure is located on a continuous basis, and take care of all these requirements. They should not go frequently and come back. And those, I think, safety, security, hygiene norms have to be followed. I think that has become more or less a standard playbook now. I think we have to.
Yeah. Thank you, Khan.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. I think I learned more than what I thought I could. I could give to you. I was feeling very. I was in a state of shock when I saw the participants' profile. But I'm quite relieved. And thank you, Ram Sastry, and thank all of you for this wonderful opportunity. Keep safe.
Thank you very much.
Keep safe and take.
Thank you.
I think Dr. Thakur, you can go to the last slide.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, and thank all the directors for participating and making the webinar successful. We'll come up with more webinars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.